What is the darkest secret from our past? What would you do if the skeletons in your closet started coming out one by one? And what would you do if you found yourself tangled in a web of mysteries from decades ago? It was raining steadily, and a thick fog had wrapped London's streets in a blanket of white smoke. The yellow glow of the lampposts dissolved into the raindrops, creating a strange, dim light. Traffic was sparse, and only occasionally would a car pass by, splashing water across the road. This quiet was suddenly shattered by the wail of a police siren, which came to a halt in the upscale district of West Kensington. 2 police cars and an ambulance were parked outside a large Victorian-style house. Police tape cordoned off the entrance, and officers moved in and out. Detective Aaron Blake, a senior and stubborn investigator with the London police, stepped out of his car. Tall, with deep brown eyes, and an always serious expression, he was wrapped in his black raincoat as he entered the house. In the spacious hall, the body of a woman lay on the floor. It was Victoria Hale, a well-known businesswoman in the city, famous for her tough demeanor and ruthless business decisions. Now she lay lifeless, eyes wide open, with a look of terror on her face, rarely seen in ordinary deaths. Near the body was a piece of paper, on which was written, "You can't hide from the past." Aaron carefully picked it up and scanned the room. A window pane was broken, but the shards had fallen outside, meaning someone had exited rather than entered. Just then, Detective Claire Morgan, Aaron's partner and a forensic expert, walked in. "Time of death, roughly 10 p.m., sir," she said. "No signs of poisoning or strangulation." Aaron nodded, thinking aloud. This was no ordinary murder, but a message, and that message was tied to the past. He stepped outside. As he surveyed the area, a sudden movement caught his eye. At the corner of the street, a man stood with his back to him, his shoulders slumped. But as Aaron approached, the man turned and melted into the fog. Aaron quickened his pace, but the figure vanished. Disappearing into the mist, Aaron felt a sense of foreboding wash over him. An old case began to echo in his mind, the Hollow Man. The image of the suspect, pale and gaunt, haunted his memory. The case was closed, though. Why was it suddenly back in his thoughts? Had the murderer really thought he wouldn't notice the connection? He continued his investigation. At the police station, Aaron and Claire pulled Victoria's file. Age 42, CEO of Hale Enterprises. Husband killed in an accident 5 years ago, no children. Recently embroiled in a dispute with a major company over a land deal. The prime suspect in such cases, Claire pointed out, was usually the husband or boyfriend, but Victoria's husband had died in an automobile accident which had been investigated and ruled as such. They had no children, and while Victoria had several business rivals, none had a motive to kill her. She was disliked, sure, Claire said, but not hated enough to be murdered. Aaron pondered this. The case seemed to be dead end after dead end. Then he had a flash of insight. The killer must have known Victoria personally, and the glass falling outward clearly suggested the escape was staged. So who in Victoria's inner circle had a score to settle? The next day dawned gray and gloomy. Mirroring the mood at Scotland Yard, Aaron decided to start questioning those closest to Victoria. First on the list was Jonathan Reed, Victoria's business partner. Dressed in a tailored suit, Jonathan exuded wealth and power. He received them in his lavish office overlooking the city. His face was pale, but he composed himself quickly, hiding any emotion behind a forced smile. "I suppose you're here about Victoria," he said, his voice betraying no emotion. "I received the news last night. Appalling. Simply appalling." Aaron leaned forward. "Were you and Mrs. Hale close?" "Close, my dear detective," Jonathan said, throwing his head back and sighing. "We worked together. That hardly constitutes closeness." Aaron pressed on. "You claim to have been at your lawyer's office last night. Can you prove it?" Jonathan's composure wavered slightly. "Of course I can. I have receipts for the transaction we discussed." "A matter of fact," he said, handing over a file. "Why don't you examine them? You'll find I left at precisely 7 p.m. for my solicitor's office. Surely you don't think I could have possibly," he paused, searching for the word, "terminated Mrs. Hale's contract and returned all within an hour." He looked pleadingly at Aaron. "Surely you are not insinuating that I am capable of such a heinous act?" Aaron remained unconvinced. "Mr. Reed, we've found no evidence of a forced entry. The window was broken from the inside. Do you think Mrs. Hale took her own life?" "Preposterous," Jonathan exclaimed. "Victoria Hale did not take her own life. She was vibrant, full of plans for the future." He hesitated. "And besides, who would benefit from her death?" "That is precisely what we are trying to ascertain," Aaron said quietly. Jonathan shook his head slowly. "I offer my deepest condolences on your difficult task. Detective, pray do let me know if there is anything else I can provide." As Aaron and Claire left the building, they watched Jonathan enter a black limousine. "He certainly seems to have everything to gain from this," Claire said. "An alibi, money, and now he inherits the company." Aaron nodded, lost in thought. Jonathan's reaction seemed genuine enough, but something about him set Aaron's teeth on edge. Was Jonathan truly just a shrewd businessman who had lost a partner? Or was he something more sinister? Later that day, Aaron and Claire visited Victoria's house. Her staff had been questioned, and none had seen or heard anything unusual on the night of the murder. "Everything is staged," Aaron murmured, running a hand through his close-cropped hair. She was killed elsewhere, and her home was used to conceal the evidence. He noticed a faint scratching sound, like claws on wood, and pushed aside the heavy Persian rug. The sound became louder. "Come here, Claire," he said. Beneath the rug, hidden from view, was a trapdoor. They descended a narrow staircase into a dark, dank basement. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and decay. "This place gives me the willies," Claire whispered, her voice echoing in the confined space. They discovered a small room with a metal table and restraints bolted to the floor. "This is not a place for a lady to wait for her knight in shining armor," Claire said grimly. Suddenly, a newspaper clipping fluttered to the floor, its words stark against the grimy concrete. "Woman found dead in strange circumstances." The date beneath the headline read 10 years ago. The Hollow Man case had resurfaced, not just in their investigation, but in their very precinct. How much longer would it be before the truth unraveled? Would they solve the case before another life was lost? Meanwhile, Aaron couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching him. He glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see the man from the photo, but the street was deserted. Yet the hairs on his neck prickled with awareness. Was it just the stress, or was there someone out there who knew more than they were letting on? Aaron decided to visit Victoria's hometown. Maybe there he'd find answers to the lingering questions. He drove through the countryside, the rolling hills and quaint villages offering little clues. He stopped at the local pub, hoping to find someone who knew Victoria. An elderly woman tending the bar overheard their conversation. "Ah, Victoria," she said with a sigh. A bright spark she was, always eager to help. But when Aaron mentioned the murder, the woman's face drained of color. "Murder," she whispered, her eyes wide. "Is that what it was? I thought she'd finally found happiness. She deserved it after everything she'd been through." "Everything," Aaron echoed, sensing there was more to the story. Just then, a man at the bar slammed his drink on the counter. "Don't encourage them," he snapped. "They won't find anything here." Before Aaron could respond, the man threw some money on the counter and strode out. "Excuse me," Aaron said to the bartender. "But who was that?" "That?" the woman said, her voice hushed. "Was Thomas Clayton, Victoria's brother." To be continued. If you want to watch the next part of the story, click on the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new stories. On that rainy afternoon in London, as Aaron stared at the photograph of the three men with Victoria, a sense of foreboding settled upon him. One of the men in the picture seemed strangely familiar, like a half-remembered dream. Unable to shake this feeling, he decided to seek the help of a friend, Sam Walters, a skilled police database specialist. Handing over the photo, Aaron hoped Sam's expertise could unveil the mystery surrounding one of the men. A man who might hold the key to solving the case, and perhaps finding answers to questions Aaron didn't even know how to ask yet. 2 days passed, filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety, as Aaron waited for Sam's findings. Then the answer arrived, breaking into Aaron's world like a shard of glass. The man in the photograph was identified as Ethan Cole, hailing from the small, secluded town of Ravenswood. Ravenswood, the place where Victoria had spent most of her life before disappearing, as if fate itself was guiding their steps. Aaron and his partner, Claire, embarked on a journey to Ravenswood. The drive was long, about 3 hours from London, during which the rain had let up, but the air remained heavy with dampness. Ravenswood welcomed them with a chilling embrace. The town seemed frozen in time, stuck in a perpetual state of decay. Time appeared to move slower here, measured by the rustling leaves and the creaking of old houses. Narrow streets wound through the town, lined with weathered stone houses that whispered tales of forgotten lives. An eerie silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant cawing of crows. Upon arriving at the local police station, they met Chief Miller, a stern man whose age was etched into his face like a roadmap of years gone by. There was something about him, though, that made Aaron uneasy. When Aaron mentioned Victoria's name, a flicker of unease momentarily crossed Miller's face, quickly replaced by a stoic composure. Taking a deep breath, Miller finally spoke, his voice raspy with age and reluctance. "No one says that name here anymore. Not since that night," he said, his eyes distant as if lost in a fog of memories. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Aaron pressed further. "What night?" he asked, his voice echoing in the silent office. 10 years ago, Miller began, his gaze fixed on some distant point on the wall. "A house fire. 4 people went missing. Later, it turned out the fire wasn't an accident." The words hit Aaron like a physical blow, bringing forth images of the burned house from the photograph. The same event that had cast a long shadow over this town a decade ago. With a renewed sense of urgency, Aaron sought answers. Miller provided them with Ethan Cole's address, warning them, he's not an easy man. As darkness descended, Aaron and Claire stood before Ethan's house. It was a decaying wooden structure with peeling paint and boarded-up windows. Dead trees surrounded it like skeletal sentries, their branches clawing at the sky. A broken fence stood as the only barrier between the house and a sprawling wasteland of weeds and rubble. The sight was both eerie and unsettling, like a bad omen. When Aaron knocked on the door, heavy footsteps could be heard shuffling inside. A moment stretched into an eternity before the door creaked open, revealing a tall, gaunt man with piercing eyes that seemed to pierce through Aaron's facade. Ethan Cole regarded them silently for a moment, his face betraying nothing. Finally, he uttered softly, "Can I help you?" The night deepened, the wind rising to a mournful howl as a storm rolled into Ravenswood. Suddenly a report crackled over the police radio. A body had been found in an old abandoned workshop on the outskirts of town. Rushing to the scene, Aaron and Claire found a man tied to a chair, his eyes wide with terror, fear frozen on his face. In his hand was another piece of paper with cryptic writing, 2 down, 2 to go. A chill ran down Aaron's spine as realization dawned on him. They were all connected to the same terrifying mystery. The killer was sending them a message, a game, and they were playing on his terms. With each passing moment, the stakes escalated. Time was running out, and the next move was in the killer's hands. Aaron knew he was in a race against time, and the thought of someone else falling victim to this killer's deadly game fueled his determination. Now, with every step, every knock on a stranger's door, he inched closer to the truth, unaware of the danger that lurked around every corner, waiting to ensnare him in the killer's web. The wind was howling tonight, and dark clouds loomed over the skies of Ravenswood. Ravenswood after the body was found in the workshop. Fear had gripped the entire town. Aaron and Claire sat in the local police station. The words scrawled on the paper, 2 down, 2 to go, kept echoing in their minds. It meant the killer had a list, and every target was connected to the burned house incident. Suddenly, Aaron's phone buzzed. It was Sam Walters calling from London. He had identified one of the remaining two faces, Daniel Cross, the owner of an auto repair shop on the outskirts of town. His police record was clean, but his name had surfaced informally in connection with the incident 10 years ago. Aaron decided they needed to reach him immediately. By midday, they arrived at the auto shop. Daniel was a broad-shouldered, quiet man. The moment he saw Aaron, he seemed to recognize him. "You're from London," he said. "You want some tea?" "You're here to ask about that, aren't you?" Aaron replied bluntly. "The killer of Victoria Hale and the others is still out there. You could be next." Daniel stared back, his expression unreadable. Then, after a long silence, he said, "If you really want the truth, you'll have to talk about that night." He paused, but this town is very good at keeping secrets. Before Aaron could respond, the sound of a motorbike roared outside. Aaron glanced through the window to see a rider in a black helmet stop outside the shop, toss something inside and speed away. The bell above the door tinkled as Aaron rushed to it. A glass bottle lay on the floor, the smell of gasoline seeping into the air. "Get out!" Aaron shouted, grabbing Daniel by the collar. Now, in the next instant, flames erupted. Claire ran into the shop, grabbed a water hose and sprayed it at the blaze, but it spread too quickly. Aaron pulled Daniel toward the back door, and they escaped into the alley. The fire crackled and popped, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding buildings. As onlookers watched, firefighters worked to extinguish the blaze. When it was finally out, police officers swarmed the area. Forensics teams carefully combed through the remains of the shop, looking for clues. On the back wall, in spray-painted letters, were the words, "Too slow. Detective." The message was clear. The killer had not only seen them, but knew exactly who they were and what they were doing. Shaken, Daniel agreed to tell the truth. The three of them sat in a local diner, and Daniel began. 10 years ago, 4 of us were in that house. Me, Victoria, Ethan, and another man, Alex Ward. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Alex was the only face from the photograph they still hadn't identified. Daniel explained that the fire hadn't been an accident, but a planned explosion, and the target that night had been someone else. But after one person died, everyone agreed to keep silent. "Where's Alex now?" Aaron asked. Daniel replied, his voice grave. "He left town. He couldn't stay here after what happened." Daniel looked at the table, unable to meet Aaron's gaze. "But if the killer's list includes all of us, then he's the last target." When they left the diner, Aaron knew their next move find Alex before the killer did. But deep down, he sensed they were already behind. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Aaron and Claire interviewed everyone in town who knew Daniel, hoping to find a lead on Alex's whereabouts. But all they turned up was a trail of rumors and speculation. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the town, they headed back to the station empty-handed. That night, Aaron's phone buzzed. He pulled it out to see a new message from the same unknown number. 3 chilling words. "He's already mine." Staring at the screen, Aaron felt the weight of the truth settle upon him. This was no longer just an investigation now. It was a race against time. They had to find Alex before the killer claimed his final victim. But where do you even begin to look when you do not know who your enemy is, or where they might strike next? Fear gnawed at Aaron's insides. He knew the stakes were higher than ever. If they failed to stop this killer, who would be next? Him, Claire, or perhaps someone else entirely? As darkness fell over Ravenswood, Aaron and Claire prepared themselves for the long night ahead. They had to be ready for anything, because in this game of cat and mouse, Time was running out. The Manchester morning was cold, but inside Aaron's chest a storm of unease was raging. He and Claire sat in a small motel room. On the table lay the USB drive they had found the night before in the black SUV. The words written on the envelope, "Watch this alone," detective pounded in Aaron's mind like a hammer. He powered on his laptop, plugged in the USB, and opened the file. A grainy image appeared on the screen, as if it had been filmed on an old handheld camera. The timestamp in the corner showed a date from 10 years ago, the same night the burned house had gone up in flames. In the frame, 4 figures stood: Victoria, Ethan, Daniel, and Alex. They were in a dimly lit room, facing a man tied to a chair, his face hidden in shadow. Aaron leaned closer to the screen. In the background, footsteps approached, and then a man's voice, deep, heavy with anger, spoke. "You think you'll get away? You all broke the deal. This fire is my message to you." The camera jolted. A deafening explosion rang out, and flames roared into the frame. The video cut abruptly to black. Aaron closed the laptop. Claire asked, "Who was that man?" Aaron replied, "I don't know. But one thing's clear, that night wasn't an accident. And the killer isn't just after revenge, he's trying to prove something." Aaron decided they needed to check the police records from the time of the incident. "Let's go back to the station. We need to dig deeper into the case files." At the station, Aaron and Claire pored over the cold case files. They discovered that all physical evidence from the crime scene had inexplicably vanished. Forensics reports, witness statements, even the victim's body bag tag had disappeared. As if sensing Aaron's mounting frustration, Claire placed a hand on his arm. "There has to be something here, some clue that links these two cases." She pointed to a faded photograph tucked between the case files. It showed a team of detectives gathered around a whiteboard covered with handwritten notes and potential leads. One name circled in red stood out: Mark Sebastian. "He must have been the lead investigator," Aaron said, recognizing the name from the report he'd seen earlier. "Find out what happened to him, Claire." As Aaron continued, poring over the evidence, Claire located Mark Sebastian's current contact details and gave him a call. Moments later, Aaron's phone rang. It was Mark. "Aaron, right. I heard you were looking for me." After ending the call, Aaron shared the news with Claire. "He agreed to meet us at the station. Apparently he retired and moved to Manchester after the investigation ended." Aaron felt a surge of gratitude. Maybe someone from the force would actually help them. But when Mark arrived, it became clear that he, too, had secrets. A deep frown creased his forehead as he examined the photos. "These faces, they bring back some bad memories. The lead pathologist found traces of a sedative in Victoria's system, but we never got conclusive results. There weren't many signs of forced entry at her house. But we did find this." He handed Aaron a torn piece of cloth. "It seems to match the material of the curtains at the crime scene." Aaron observed the fabric closely. Sure enough, it matched the remnants found in the attic. "The killer was careful," Mark mused. "He cleaned up well, but there were some things we couldn't account for. Like, why were those chemicals in the house? And what was the connection to the gas explosion?" Aaron's eyes widened as he remembered the video. In the background, the sound of footsteps. "Do you remember hearing anything about a second victim?" Mark hesitated. "We investigated rumors, but there was no concrete evidence of foul play. I believe whoever was responsible for Victoria's death also caused the explosion." Mark's face hardened. "But without proof, we couldn't link them." It was frustrating. Aaron nodded sympathetically. 10 years ago, a young detective named Alex Cross worked on the case with me. Brilliant kid. Great potential. Shame how things turned out." Aaron could sense Mark's sadness, but he had questions of his own. Was anyone else involved in the investigation, fired, or suspended? Mark's demeanor shifted, becoming guarded. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. Your records are clean, but some of the other officers involved in the investigation have had brushes with the law since then. Makes you wonder if they were covering for someone." Mark looked away, lost in thought. "I can't talk specifics, but there were some questionable decisions made. Back then there was a lot of pressure to close the case quickly. I suspect that may have influenced some people's actions." He sighed, his shoulders slumping. After Victoria's death, there were whispers. Some said she had connections to dangerous people. Others claimed she was involved in illegal activities. But I dismissed it. She was a respected member of the community. A mother, a friend. Mark paused, then added quietly, "And I believed her death was simply a tragic accident until now." Aaron thanked Mark for his insights, knowing that the retired detective held more information than he was willing to share. As they left the station, Aaron and Claire prepared to carry out their next move. But little did they know they were being watched. A black SUV followed them from a distance. The driver, shrouded in darkness, observed their every move. Meanwhile, unaware of the danger lurking nearby, Aaron and Claire arrived at their motel room, the site of their previous night's discovery. Their investigation had taken a sinister turn. The stakes were higher now, and they had an unsettling feeling that they were being shadowed. Little did they know that they were merely pawns in a game orchestrated by a brilliant, unseen force. Night had fallen deep, but there was no trace of sleep in Aaron's eyes. The message on his phone, "He's already mine," kept echoing in his mind. He immediately called Sam Walters and told him to find Alex Ward's location. Sam reported back in a short while. Alex had been living in Manchester for the past 8 years, working for a private security firm. Without wasting time, Aaron decided they would leave for Manchester first thing in the morning. The weather in Manchester was cold and overcast. Aaron and Claire knocked on the door of Alex's apartment. The door opened slowly, revealing a broad-shouldered middle-aged man. His eyes showed both surprise and fear. "You? Why are you here?" he asked. Aaron spoke plainly. "Victoria Hale is dead. Ethan and another man have also been murdered. You're the last one." Alex's face went pale. He let them inside and said, "I knew this day would come. What we did that night, it doesn't go away so easily." When Aaron pressed for details, Alex took a deep breath. "There was a man locked inside that house. We all made a deal with him, but the deal was broken, and the fire started. Everyone thought he died, but it seems he's come back." At that moment, there was a faint movement outside the window. Claire pulled back the curtain to see a man in a black coat and hat standing across the street, staring straight at them. Aaron rushed outside immediately, but the figure disappeared into the next street. Aaron knew that wasting time now meant death. He decided to move Alex to a safe location. The three of them left Manchester in a rental car. As they drove, Aaron couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being watched. Sure enough, on a straight stretch of highway, Aaron noticed a black SUV tailing them. He increased speed, but the SUV matched it. Just then, a sharp curve loomed ahead. Aaron slammed on the brakes, swerving to the right. The tires screeched as the vehicle skidded to a stop at the edge of a field, just barely staying on the road. Aaron and Claire jumped out, weapons ready, but the SUV's driver never emerged. When Aaron approached the vehicle, he saw the driver's seat was empty. The engine was still running, the doors wide open. On the dashboard lay a small envelope. Aaron opened it carefully to find a USB drive and a slip of paper. The message read, "Watch this alone, detective," followed by a sinister smiley face. The final line, however, chilled him to the bone. "It wasn't us who started the fire." As the ominous words sunk in, Aaron felt a sense of dread wash over him. This case, which he had hoped to close with the capture of Ethan, had taken a terrifying turn. The revelation that someone else was involved sent a shiver down his spine. Who was behind all of this? And what did they mean by it? Wasn't us who started the fire? With these unsettling questions hanging in the air, Aaron knew he had to act fast. The safety of not only himself and Claire, but also those around them was now at risk. As he looked at the USB drive in his hand, he realized it held the key to unraveling the mystery. This was far from over. The game had changed, and the stakes had just been raised. With a grim determination, Aaron inserted the USB drive into his laptop. As the screen flickered to life, he braced himself for what he might find. Each click of the mouse brought him closer to the truth, or so he thought. But what he found was beyond his wildest nightmares. The video on the drive wasn't just any video. It was footage from inside the very house where it all began. Footage that revealed secrets so horrifying, so shocking, that it shook Aaron to his core. The detective who had been hunting for answers had just found himself trapped in a web of deceit, danger, and darkness. And he knew in that moment that he wasn't just fighting for justice anymore. He was fighting for survival. Hello friends, I'm here. And today we have another serial killer short story. Let's dive right in. It was night, and beneath the old bridge in Ravenswood, the river flowed slowly, but there was an unsettling charge in the air. Clouds had swallowed the moon, and a layer of moisture clung to the bridge's rusted railings. Aaron parked his car a short distance away and walked alone to the center of the bridge, each step alert, ears straining for any sound. Under the dim glow of a lone lamppost sat a chair, and in it, Alex found his face pale with exhaustion and fear. As Aaron drew closer, a tall figure emerged from the shadows, the same man in the black coat and fedora hat, his face still hidden in darkness. "Let him go," Aaron shouted. The man chuckled softly. "Did you think I'd just hand you answers? This game isn't about you. This is about settling a debt from the past." Aaron took a step forward. "Whoever you are, you've killed 4 people. Your revenge ends tonight." The killer slowly stepped into the light. His face was still masked, but his eyes, Aaron had seen those eyes somewhere before. "You want the truth?" the killer said. 10 years ago, an innocent man was burned alive in that house. And these 4, they were his murderers. Aaron's breath caught. "Who was he to you?" The killer stepped closer. "He was my father, detective. And you're the last witness in this town who deserves to know the truth." The man removed his hat and pushed back his dark hood, revealing the face of a stranger. It was young, handsome even, with high cheekbones and eyes that glittered like chips of ice in the dim light. But it was the cruel sneer twisting his lips that sent a chill down Aaron's spine. He didn't recognize the face, but those eyes, they were seared into Aaron's memory. They belonged to Alex. "What?" Aaron whispered, his mind reeling. It couldn't be. The boy slumped in the chair. Wasn't just Alex. It was his son. Aaron knelt beside the bound Alex, gently feeling for a pulse, then swiftly cutting the ropes with his pocket knife. Alex stirred, pain and confusion clouding his emerald eyes. "Dad," he croaked, scrambling back when he saw Aaron. How did you find me?" Aaron knelt, meeting his gaze. I found your sister's diary. She wrote about you. I thought you were dead. Alex shuddered, burying his face in his hands. She was right. I am dead to everyone. To them, I'm nothing but a disappointment, a burden. Aaron pulled him close, ignoring the damp clinging to his clothes. You're not a burden, champ. You never were. Come home now. Please. Alex shook his head, his voice barely a whisper. No, it's too late. There's no home for me. I tried to run, but he found me. I couldn't outrun him. Who found you? Aaron tightened his grip, turning to the boy's captor, his fists clenched. I did, didn't I? The man said softly, stepping into the light. Don't you recognize me, detective? Aaron stared, disbelief contorting his features. It was Ben, the quiet, unassuming coroner he'd worked with for years. A man whose gentle nature and soft-spoken demeanor had always put Aaron at ease. Now his friendly face was twisted into a mockery of itself, his eyes blazing with a chilling intensity. Ben, what are you doing? What does it look like I'm doing? Aaron, Ben snapped, his voice raw with barely suppressed power. I'm ending this charade. I'm tired of hiding in the shadows. It's time the truth came out. Aaron struggled to comprehend the words, to reconcile the kind, bespectacled man he knew with the menacing figure standing before him. But why? Why would you do all of this? Why? Ben echoed, a cruel smile curling his lips. Because my father deserved better than to be burned alive, detective. He was a good man, a brilliant scientist, and you let them kill him. Aaron felt a surge of anger, not just at Ben, but at himself, for failing to protect the man who turned out to be Ben's father. Where's the journal? Ben demanded, stepping closer. The one your partner lost. The one with the evidence against those bastards. Aaron hesitated, torn between his duty to uphold justice and his growing concern for Ben's mental well-being. It doesn't matter anymore, Ben. It's been 10 years. We can't bring him back. You have to let this go. Ben shook his head, his eyes filled with a deranged fervor. No, I won't let it go. Not until they pay for what they did. Not until the world knows the truth. He lunged for Aaron, catching him off guard and sending him sprawling onto the wet ground. Ben, snap out of it. Please, Aaron pleaded, trying to help the man up. But Ben was like a wild animal, his strength bestial, his eyes burning with a terrifying light. Get away from me, Aaron, he snarled, shoving the detective back. You don't understand. I need to do this. I have to finish what he started. Ben scrambled back to his feet, grabbing Alex by the collar and pulling him close. Please, Ben, Aaron begged, reaching out. But Ben was beyond reason, his face contorted with a mix of grief and rage. You failed him, detective, Ben hissed, his eyes blazing, and now I will make them pay. With that, he disappeared into the shadows, dragging the struggling Alex with him. Aaron stumbled to his feet, his heart heavy with a premonition of what was to come. Racing towards the only place Ben could be going, Aaron hoped against hope that he could still intervene, that he could bring Ben back from the brink. He burst through the door, his eyes scanning the dimly lit room for any sign of the two missing boys. In the corner, he spotted a familiar leather jacket, and his blood ran cold. There, lying on the floor, was Ben's glasses. His heart sank as he realized the full weight of Ben's obsession. This wasn't just about seeking answers or revenge. It was about silencing anyone who could stop him, even if it meant sacrificing his own humanity. Aaron's gaze fell on a set of charred remains in the fireplace, a grim reminder of the lengths to which Ben's father had gone to protect his work. Memories flooded back, the whispers in the wind, the secrets hidden in plain sight. Aaron had failed to connect the dots, to see the darkness that had been brewing beneath the surface, but now it was too late. The truth had been burned away, leaving only ashes and regret. With a sense of foreboding, Aaron dialed 911, the weight of the town's secrets pressing down on him. As sirens wailed in the distance, he stood over the charred remains, vowing to uncover the truth, not just for the sake of justice, but for the sake of his own redemption. In the eerie silence that followed, Aaron made a solemn promise to himself. He would find Ben and Alex, even if it meant confronting the darkest corners of his own soul. As the flames danced in the fireplace, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls, Aaron felt the full force of the tragedy that had befallen Ravenswood. He had failed to protect its people, to shield them from the secrets that haunted their past. But now, armed with the knowledge of the town's history, he was determined to make things right. With a newfound sense of urgency, Aaron rushed out of the house, the weight of the town's secrets heavy on his shoulders. As he raced through the darkened streets, the whispers of the past seemed to echo around him, urging him to uncover the truth. But with every step, Aaron felt the darkness closing in, threatening to consume him. He knew he was in a race against time, a race to save not only the town, but himself. In the final moments, as the flames engulfed him, Aaron had a realization. Justice wasn't just about punishing the guilty, it was also about seeking redemption. He had failed his partner, lost a piece of his soul in the process. But now, with the truth as his weapon, he was ready to face the darkness head-on. With a deep breath, Aaron stepped back into the shadows, ready to confront the evil that lurked in the hearts of men. As the fire raged on, he knew that justice would be served, even if it meant sacrificing everything. As a man of faith, Aaron struggles to reconcile his beliefs with the violence he's forced to face. His internal conflict is palpable, but can he find peace amidst the storm? Let's delve deeper into the story. The rain-slicked streets mirrored the turmoil in Aaron's chest. The revelation that the killer had taken his own life had left him shaken, but duty called. He had promised Alex's mother, Claire, that he would deliver justice. Now, under the cover of darkness, he stood before the house where it all began, where Alex met his demise. A chill wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of rain and secrets. Aaron adjusted his collar, the badge beneath a heavy weight. This wasn't just a case. It was a promise. He stepped onto the porch, the wood creaking under his weight. His hand hovered over the worn door knocker, each second echoing the urgency in his soul. As the knock reverberated through the stillness, Aaron braced for whatever lay behind the door. The house held its breath. Then, a shuffling of feet, the scrape of a chair. Time seemed to stretch, the silence punctuated by the relentless rain. Then the door creaked open, spilling a pool of yellow light onto the welcome mat. Standing before him was an elderly woman, her face etched with years of untold stories. Her eyes, however, were sharp, reflecting the flickering lamplight. "Can I help you?" Her voice, though raspy, carried an unexpected strength. Aaron, ever the professional, wasted no time. He flashed his badge, his tone as serious as the task at hand. "Ma'am, I need to ask you some questions about what happened here, about the death of your son, Alex." The woman's eyes clouded with a familiar pain, the same pain that haunted Aaron's waking hours. Without a word, she stepped aside, allowing Aaron entry into the house. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old books and memories. The room was dimly lit, each shadow whispering secrets from the past. Aaron's gaze swept over the room, lingering on a framed photograph on the mantelpiece. It was Alex, younger, his smile as bright as the sun. The sight tugged at Aaron's heartstrings, reminding him of the boy's infectious laugh that now echoed only in memories. As Aaron settled into a chair, the woman moved restlessly, her eyes downcast. Silence filled the room, the ticking clock on the mantel, a relentless counterpoint to the unspoken words. Finally, the woman spoke, her voice trembling slightly. "I haven't spoken about this in so long," she began, her gaze fixed on a point beyond Aaron's shoulder. "About Alex, or what truly happened here." She paused, as if searching for the right words. "What did your investigation uncover? Do you know who took my son's life?" Aaron leaned forward, his eyes locked onto the woman's face. "I do, ma'am, and I believe you know it too." The admission hung between them, heavy with unspoken truths. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell the police?" She looked up then, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Because it wouldn't bring him back," she whispered, her voice breaking. "And the pain of knowing, the constant ache, that's what I've carried for all this time. To know the truth and still not be able to change anything. It's a burden. Detective, sometimes the truth is a heavy thing to bear." Aaron nodded understandingly. He, too, had wrestled with similar demons. In his line of work, he saw the worst of humanity, the darkest secrets that lurked beneath the surface of normalcy. "What did your son mean to you, ma'am? What kind of person was he?" A faint smile touched the woman's lips as she spoke. Alex was sunshine on a cloudy day. He had a way of lighting up a room with his laughter, with his kindness. If there was anyone who could make the world a better place, it was him. And that's why I couldn't bear to lose him without knowing why, without knowing who was responsible. As the night deepened, the conversation flowed, weaving a tapestry of love, loss, and lingering questions. Aaron listened intently, piecing together the fragments of Alex's life. He learned of a young man full of dreams, aspirations that reached far beyond the confines of their small town. Aaron felt a pang of sympathy. He, too, had dreams once, dreams that had taken a back seat to the demands of his job. But amidst the shared stories, a question nagged at Aaron. Why had the killer chosen Alex? What had led him to that fateful confrontation on the bridge? As the first rays of dawn began to peek through the curtains, the woman suddenly stiffened, as if struck by a sudden thought. "You must be wondering why I didn't call the police, why I kept this secret for so long." Her voice was barely a whisper. "It's because I knew the truth would only bring more pain, more sorrow. I hoped that with time, the wound would heal, that the memory of my son would become a little less sharp with each passing day. I failed, detective, both as a mother and as a citizen. But I ask you, is that not the greatest failing of all? To live in a world where the truth is nothing but a burden?" Her words hung in the air, unanswered. Aaron felt the weight of her unspoken pain, the burden of a mother who had lost her child and a community that had lost its innocence. He rose from his seat, his face etched with resolve. "Thank you for your time, ma'am. You've helped me understand Alex a little better, and perhaps that's the best we can hope for when the truth seems elusive." As he walked away from the house, Aaron's thoughts raced. The woman's words echoed in his mind, urging him to look beyond the obvious, to delve deeper into the labyrinth of deceit. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with peril, but the prospect of uncovering the truth gave him strength. Just then, the crunch of gravel under tires broke the morning calm. A sleek black car rolled to a halt beside him. The window rolled down, revealing a man with steely gray eyes and a jaw that could have been chiseled from granite. "I trust you found what you were looking for, Aaron." His voice was a low rumble that seemed to resonate with the darkness gathering in Aaron's soul. "Do you know what happens when someone meddles in affairs they don't understand? When they seek answers that are better left buried? There are things, dark things," Aaron said, his gaze unwavering, "that people are better off not knowing. Things that once revealed can't be unseen. They say knowledge is power, but sometimes the truth is a heavy burden to bear." The man's eyes narrowed. "You've gone too deep, Aaron. There's no turning back now. And when the veil is lifted, you may not like what you see. Be careful, detective. Not everyone is as strong as I am to handle the truth." With that ominous warning, the car roared to life and sped away, leaving Aaron standing amidst the whispers of the wind. His decision to seek the truth had put him on a collision course with forces he had never before encountered, and as the day wore on, he realized that he had awakened something ancient, something sinister, that had lain dormant for far too long. In a moment of candor, Aaron had confided in a colleague, sharing his doubts about the official narrative surrounding the case. Little did he know that those words would act as a beacon, drawing unwanted attention from those who preferred to keep the past buried. That afternoon, as Aaron delved deeper into the records of the cold case, his phone vibrated, the screen flashing an unknown number. Curiosity piqued, he answered the call. "Hello." The voice on the other end was a raspy whisper. "I know things about your little investigation. Things that would make things a lot more complicated for you if I were to reveal them." Aaron's grip tightened around the phone. He could sense the danger lurking beneath the voice's casual tone. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice betraying none of the turmoil within. "Oh, just a concerned citizen, detective. Someone who doesn't want to see good men get hurt trying to unearth secrets that are better left buried. Secrets that, if revealed, could tear this town apart." With that final cryptic warning, the call disconnected, leaving Aaron staring at the phone in his hand, the receiver growing cold. He knew that he had stumbled upon a hornet's nest of secrets, and the whispers from the past threatened to consume him. Determined to press on, Aaron revisited the crime scene, hoping to find some overlooked piece of evidence that could provide a new lead. But as he walked along the rain-washed streets, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Every shadow seemed to harbor a threat, every passerby a potential danger. As darkness fell once more, Aaron found himself at the foot of the bridge where Alex lost his life. But this time, there was a difference. The air crackled with an energy that sent shivers down his spine, and as he gazed out at the dark expanse of the river, he thought he saw a movement in the water, something dark gliding just below the surface. Could it be the killer? Or was his mind playing tricks fueled by fear and fatigue? Then he heard it again, the sound of lapping water, followed by a soft splash. The sound came from the middle of the bridge. Hesitantly, Aaron moved toward the noise, each step echoing his pounding heart. And there, in the dim glow of the streetlights, he saw it, a small object bobbing in the water. Wading in, he discovered a battered metal box, its contents unknown. With shaking hands, Aaron opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of damp cloth, he found a series of photographs, their contents sending a jolt of recognition through him. One of the pictures showed Alex with a group of teenagers, all of them grinning broadly, their youthful joy a stark contrast to the grim reality of the present. But there was more. Hidden beneath the photograph, Aaron found a key and a folded piece of paper. Unfolding it carefully, he discovered a name and an address. It was then that Aaron realized that the killer hadn't acted alone. This was just the tip of a very deep iceberg. He had uncovered a conspiracy that reached further than he could have imagined. Now, clutching the key and the address close, Aaron understood that he was no longer just pursuing a case. He was navigating a treacherous path where every step could lead him closer to the truth, but also expose him to unimaginable danger. As the rain began to fall again, mirroring the turmoil in his soul, Aaron knew that he stood at a precipice. His path ahead, shrouded in mystery and peril, awaited his next move. And so, armed with newfound clues and driven by an unyielding determination, Aaron ventured forth into the storm, ready to confront the shadows that lurked in the heart of his city. Aaron turned the key in the ignition. Morning had come, but thick clouds kept the daylight at bay. Rain lashed against the windshield, blurring the world outside into a watery gray. 12 Westwood Lane, Ravenswood outskirts, stared back at him from the address book. It was nearly 20 miles from the city, a place of old, crumbling farmhouses and deserted roads. "Westwood Lane," Claire said softly, tracing her finger across the lines on the map. "It looks like we're heading out to the sticks." Aaron pulled the car onto the rain-slicked driveway. "There isn't much out here but cornfields and cow patties," Claire said, trying to keep her tone light, though he could see the apprehension in her eyes. The farmhouse loomed before them, a menacing silhouette against the leaden sky. It was the kind of place where dreams went to die. As Aaron stepped inside, the scent of dust and decay hit them like a physical blow. The only sound was the wind whistling through broken window panes. The floors creaked ominously under Aaron's weight, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. Then he saw it, something that sent a jolt of adrenaline straight to his heart, a large piece of board nailed to the wall. It was covered with newspaper clippings, the headline screaming of a gruesome murder. But what really caught Aaron's attention was the centerpiece of it all, a photograph of the killer. He was young, barely older than Aaron himself, and stood proudly next to a burning house. Around the image were pictures of the 4 victims. And then, in the corner, Aaron's breath caught in his throat. There was another photograph pinned to the board, one that shouldn't have been there. It was of him, taken from the security footage of the pawn shop. Beneath it were the words scrawled in a childish hand, "The final witness." Claire's voice trembled. "Aaron, he's planning to kill you too." Her eyes were wide with fear, but Aaron felt a different emotion rising within him. It wasn't just anger or determination. It was a cold, hard resolve. This killer had stalked his pawn shop, watched him, studied him. But why? What did he want from Aaron? He pushed aside the clippings and examined the board closely. There had to be something else here, something he was missing. Then he noticed the nails holding up the board were misaligned, as if something had been removed from the center of the board. It was subtle, but Aaron was determined to uncover every last detail. He felt behind the photo of the burned house, and his fingers brushed against a small object. He pulled it out, and his heart raced. It was a key. Aaron turned the key in the ignition. "Let's get out of here," he said, his voice betraying nothing of the turmoil inside him. As the car crunched over the gravel driveway, Aaron stared at the key in his palm. It was old and worn, smelling faintly of mildew and something else, something strangely familiar. He turned to Claire. "Do you recognize that key?" he asked, showing it to her. Claire stared at it, her brow furrowed in concentration. "That's the key to the old well," she whispered, her voice filled with dread. "Why would the killer leave this here?" Aaron's mind was already racing. He had a feeling that this key was the final piece of the puzzle, the link to the mystery that had ensnared them all. He drove back to the police station. As soon as he arrived, he called in sick, needing time to unravel this mystery on his own. His colleagues nodded understandingly, assuming it was the stress of the case taking its toll. Only Detective Harper seemed skeptical. She cast Aaron a sharp look, but didn't question him further. By early afternoon, Aaron and Claire were back at the farmhouse. The rain had let up, leaving the world washed and glistening, but the tranquility of the scene was deceptive. The farmhouse still loomed ominously over them, the paint peeling from its sides like scabs. Aaron walked up to the well, its age-old stones cold beneath his touch. With trembling hands, he inserted the key into the rusted lock. It turned with a sound like a scream in the wind, and Aaron peered into the darkness. The opening was filled with water, but Aaron could make out something lying at the bottom, something that glistened like metal. He leaned in closer and his blood ran cold. It was a gun, the same model as the one the killer used. As the full weight of this discovery settled upon him, Aaron felt a chill that had nothing to do with the overcast weather. The killer had planned this. He'd known Aaron would find this gun, and the thought of what might happen next sent a shiver down his spine. Back at the farmhouse, Aaron pored over the clues, the clippings, the photographs, searching for the connection that eluded him. Meanwhile, Claire ventured into the dusty attic, where she stumbled upon a hidden compartment containing old letters and diaries. These personal accounts offered a glimpse into the lives of those trapped in this web of deceit, hinting at a conspiracy that ran deeper than anyone had imagined. As Aaron pieced together the fragments of the past, he uncovered a secret society operating within the town's elite. Their emblem, a serpent entwined around a dagger, symbolized their cunning and their deadly intent. The targets those who threatened to expose their illicit activities, including the father of one of Aaron's closest friends. Suddenly, the pieces clicked into place. The murders, the cover-up, the twisted games. It all pointed to one chilling conclusion. The killings were not just random acts of violence. They were orchestrated by a clandestine group seeking to maintain their power and silence any who dared to challenge them. Aaron stared at the serpent symbol emblazoned on the killer's clothes, a grim realization dawning on him. The killer wasn't just a pawn in this deadly game. He was one of the players. But why? And how far would he go to protect his secrets? Just then, the sound of vehicles pulling up outside the farmhouse made Aaron freeze. Claire joined him at the window. 3 black SUVs had stopped in front of the house. They weren't the type of vehicles you'd expect to find in a place like this. Before Aaron could react, the front door burst open and armed men poured inside, their faces hidden behind masks, their eyes cold and hard. Aaron grabbed the gun from the table. It was now or never. He charged toward the door. "Don't move," one of the men barked, aiming his weapon at Aaron. Behind him, Claire cried out in alarm. But Aaron wasn't giving up without a fight. He fired, the sound echoing through the silent house. The man's eyes widened in surprise before collapsing to the floor. Aaron exchanged glances with Claire, a silent acknowledgement of their shared danger. They were trapped in a deadly game, the rules of which they didn't understand, and as more men entered the room, they knew they were in grave peril. They climbed the creaking stairs cautiously. In one of the rooms sat an old man in a chair, his hands trembling. When he saw Aaron, fear and surprise flashed in his eyes. Why are you here?" he asked in a shaky voice. Aaron approached the man, his tone firm. "Who are you, and what does that board mean?" The old man hesitated, then began to speak in a slow, deliberate voice. "I'm William Grayson, the investigator from the fire department. I was the one who investigated that fire 10 years ago, but the files were taken from me. I know what happened that night. Though the four of them didn't just want to kill one man, they wanted to erase a secret involving some of the most powerful people in this city. Aaron was about to press for more when the sound of vehicles pulling up outside made him stop. He glanced out the window. 3 black SUVs had stopped in front of the farmhouse. Before they could react, masked armed men burst inside. The sharp crack of gunfire tore through the silence. Aaron and Claire ducked behind a table, returning fire. William, shaking, shoved a folder toward Aaron. This is everything. Take it and run. Aaron grabbed the folder and moved toward the back door. But in that instant, a bullet struck William in the chest. A strange, peaceful smile spread across the old man's face, as if he had finally found relief. He collapsed to the floor. Aaron knew he couldn't stop. There was no time. They sprinted through the rain to the rear of the farmhouse and jumped into an old pickup truck parked behind it. Bullets tore into the ground around them as they sped away, somehow escaping with their lives. On the road, Aaron opened the folder. Inside were old documents, photographs, and a list of bank transactions bearing some very big names: the city's mayor, the police chief, and several influential businessmen Aaron had never thought to connect to the killer. One photograph made his stomach lurch, showed his father standing with a group of men, the burned house looming in the background. Claire's voice was almost a whisper. Aaron, your father was part of this. Aaron stayed silent. His mind was a storm of questions. Was his own family tangled in this dark past? And if so, was that why the killer had made him a target? Just then, Aaron's phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. You re close to the truth, but time is against you. The next body will fall before your eyes. Aaron knew it wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. Hello friends, let's read tonight's bedtime story together. It was 9 p.m. The rain had stopped, but the streets still glistened with water. Aaron and Claire were tucked away in a small, lonely roadside motel. On the table lay the open folder William Grayson had given his life to deliver. It contained several photographs and papers about a corrupt real estate developer named Edward Carlton and a politician named Theodore Bryant. Aaron kept scanning the photographs and papers over and over, but one question kept echoing in his mind. Why was his father's face in front of that burned-down house? Suddenly, a knock on the door startled him. Who could that be? Claire whispered. There wasn't much traffic on this road, especially not after dark. Aaron quietly approached the door and peered through the peephole. He couldn't see anyone. Cautiously, he opened the door. Standing in front of him was a plain brown envelope, as though someone had just slipped it under the door without knocking. Aaron looked left and right, but there was no one around. Who would send him something like this? Hesitantly, he picked up the envelope. It was heavy. As he turned it over, he found a faint watermark where something had been taped onto the envelope and then peeled off. Quickly, he ran to the sink, turned on the tap, and added water to the area. After a few moments, the message underneath reappeared. Meet me at the abandoned warehouse on the west shore at midnight. If you want your father to rest in peace, bring nothing but the file. It was signed, The Raven. Aaron immediately scanned the roads surrounding the motel, thinking of potential escape routes. The sender of the letter must have been watching them closely. How else could he have known they were staying here? Glancing at the folder, Aaron felt a surge of protectiveness. His father might be gone, but he would protect his legacy. Taking a deep breath, he told Claire, I think we need to leave. Meanwhile, at the abandoned warehouse on the west shore, a lone figure waited in the shadows. He checked his watch. Soon the figures from the car would arrive. The man smiled slightly. It was almost time for his revenge. The moment Aaron and Claire arrived at the warehouse, the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. Everything about this place felt sinister. Rubble crunched under his shoes, and the air hung heavy with the scent of decay. He could feel Claire's unease beside him. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from inside. Startled, Aaron took a step back. They were being watched. Moving closer to the entrance, he and Claire exchanged a look before pushing the door open. Inside, 2 men blocked their path, their faces hidden behind ski masks. Where are we supposed to go? Claire asked nervously. The men didn't respond. They merely gestured for Aaron and Claire to walk deeper into the warehouse. Aaron kept his eyes on the men, wondering what awaited them in the darkness. Was this a trap laid by those who wanted the file, or was it part of the puzzle they needed to solve? As they ventured further, the warehouse seemed to close in around them, amplifying every creak and groan of the aging structure. The beam of Claire's flashlight flickered, momentarily revealing a third man seated on a nearby crate. All 3 of them were dressed in black. The man on the crate removed his mask, revealing a face Aaron recognized with a jolt. It was Alex, the young man from the motel. Relief washed over Aaron, quickly followed by confusion. Was Alex leading them here, or was he another obstacle? Before Aaron could ask any questions, the man to his left stepped forward. In a surprisingly gentle voice, he said, We're not here to hurt you. We need your help, and I believe you can help us expose Edward Carlton. Startled by the man's unexpected statement, Aaron hesitated, unsure how to respond. The mention of Carlton's name sent a chill down his spine. a reminder of the corruption that ran deep within Ravenswood. After a moment of silence, Aaron finally spoke, his voice laced with caution. "Why should I trust you? What do I get out of this?" The man in black leaned closer, his gaze intense. "The truth about Ravenswood, and if you decide to join us, your father's death will not be in vain. He'll be avenged." His words hung in the air, a tempting offer that tugged at the desire for justice that burned within Aaron. Glancing at Claire, Aaron saw the skepticism etched on her face. He knew she was wary, just as he was, but the possibility of uncovering the truth was a powerful draw. Taking a deep breath, Aaron decided to test them. "Let me guess," he said, his voice laced with sarcasm. "You want me to hand over the file?" "That's not what I said, is it?" The man in black responded with a hint of amusement in his voice. "You misunderstood? We don't want the file. We want you to use it. You have guts, Aaron Hayes, I can tell." With a gesture, the man in black indicated for Aaron and Claire to sit on some nearby crates. "Here's what we know," he began, his voice dropping to a low intensity. "Edward Carlton and Theodore Bryant are deeply involved with Ravenswood's organized crime scene. The file you have holds the key to exposing them. But we also know that they have eyes and ears everywhere. Trust no one. That's why we're here. We want to ensure you get the upper hand." As the man spoke, pieces of the Ravenswood puzzle began to fit into place. Aaron could feel the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. The game was escalating, and the stakes had never been higher. He exchanged a worried glance with Claire, realizing that their safety, as well as their mission, hung in the balance. The warehouse, once just a crumbling relic of the past, now seemed like a battleground where unseen forces were converging. The safety of Aaron and Claire was now entangled with the fate of Ravenswood itself. To be continued. Friends, what do you think will happen next? Why did those men come to save Aaron and Claire? What secret does the file hold? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Also, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more updates. Your support motivates us to keep bringing you more engaging stories. Stay tuned for the next chapter. Until then, sweet dreams.